shall I go? What shall I do?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Behave yourselves!
Hello, YouTubers out there. This is Jerry Saravia to Movies. So recently, it was revealed, actually about a week ago, that Martin Scorsese's new film, Killers of the Flower Moon, which is based on a book and an actual true story about the Osage murders in Osage County, dealing with Native Americans and the FBI and so on and so forth. And some of this was, I think, partially covered, clearly not in the same way as the book, because the book came out much later, I believe, in the FBI story, which was a film that was actually not bad, with James Stewart as an FBI agent, the Hoover Boys type thing. Came out in the 1950s. So this new film, Killers of the Flower Moon, which is supposed to maybe make its premiere at the Cannes Film Festival. A week ago, it was revealed that the film would probably be about 3 hours and 15 minutes long, which is basically the same length as Martin Scorsese's previous film, The Irishman, which came out now about 3.5 years ago. Now they are saying that the film itself will actually be 4 hours long, which is very unusual to release a 4-hour movie in a movie theater, because this will be shown in theaters, in addition to streaming later on, I believe on Apple TV, but I could be wrong. But I think they are trying to show it in theaters. And now, there's been some people complaining, even Scorsese fans, saying that is way too long. And I agree, 4 hours is long, but, so was the Justice League 4-hour cut, which a lot of people watched, and some thought was even better than the original Justice League movie, which was roughly 2 hours and a few minutes, I think. And so it seems that if it's something streaming, it's a little bit different. But in terms of length of movies, of which this would be Scorsese's longest by far, and keep in mind, fun fact, Wolf of Wall Street was originally going to be about 4 hours long. But they obviously cut it down to about 3 hours. Now, when you talk about long films, there's a film by Rainer Werner Fassbinder, which was called Berlin Alexanderplatz, which was released in, I want to say 1983 in theaters, and I think that is correct. This was originally broadcast in 1980 as part of a 14-part West German crime television miniseries set in 1920s Berlin. So the complete series is 15 hours long, although I've heard about 13 and a half hours. So in 1983, it was released theatrically in the United States, and a theater would show 2 or 3 parts per night. So talk about a long picture. There you go. Now, another one, of course, is Shoah, which was 9 hours long, which I think was shown for the period of 2 days. So you paid your ticket, and you had to go the following day or night, whatever it was, to see the rest of the movie. And that was a documentary. So there have been longer films in the past. Not to mention the king of epics, Gone with the Wind, which is roughly about 4 hours long. And then there is now this one, which, this is nothing new. I purchased this over a year ago. I still didn't get around to watching it yet because I need to set my time aside to watch this. It's one of my favorite films by Wim Wenders, called Until the End of the World, which was, I think the original theatrical version was over 2 hours and change. This one is the release by Criterion. This is the 4-hour version of the film, which may have had some screenings back in the day, from what I understand. And so there you go. Now, this I do look forward to seeing because I love the original, and I'm curious to see what was left out. And this may be a greater film, or it may be inferior. I have no idea. I've purposely not read any reviews about it, so this one I'm coming in cold at some point. And I'll discuss it on this channel. But as far as Scorsese releasing a 4-hour movie, is very unusual in theaters to show 4-hour movies anymore. Mainly because a lot of movie theaters are multiplexes. Practically at this point, almost all of them are. And if there is a main theater, it will be shown probably with an intermission. which would make sense. Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet is a good example, where there was an intermission, and I think it was about 4 hours long. I remember seeing it in theaters back in 1996. So it is possible, and rather than showing a truncated version, which I believe they did with Kenneth Branagh's film, they showed truncated versions. Other long pictures, Once Upon a Time in America, which I have the 3 hour, I forget, 3.5 hour long, maybe longer version, and I think that's still not exactly the uncut version. Sergio Leone's last movie. So anyway, I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen? But it's still unusual to show a 4 hour movie in theaters. It's very rare. So who knows if there's a lot of truth to this or if it's going to be truncated. So what are your thoughts? Do you like seeing long movies in movie theaters? And, the interesting thing about long movies, too, when something is quite long, the length may not be, it may not be so much the length, but the overall rhythm, the tone, the pacing that accounts for how involved you are in the story. And some films may not feel that long, like Scorsese's Casino, which was 3 hours long, didn't really feel like 3 hours. Gangs of New York was 2.5 hours long. Speaking of Scorsese's other pictures, I never felt like that film was too long. I think some of it felt a little truncated, and was originally like a 3 hour and I forget how long type movie. And, Gone with the Wind, I think, with the intermission, doesn't really feel that long. But I think that sometimes there are bad movies that run for 90 minutes that feel way too long. So there's that. That accounts for pacing and rhythm and how involved you are in the story. If you don't care about the story, or you don't care about what you're looking at, or there's nothing to it, then it could run for 10 minutes and it feels like 10 hours, So anyway, let me your thoughts. Tell me what you think. Do you look forward to Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon? Would you prefer it's only 3 hours or less? Or you don't care if it's as long as it's involving? And can you sit in a movie theater for 4 hours without a break? And hopefully there would be an intermission, but considering how Scorsese cuts his films with his longtime editor, film and Schoonmaker, I'm going to take a guess and say that it's probably better to see it uninterrupted. But, that's neither here or there. Let me your thoughts. Tell me what you think. Which movies have you sat through, which may not necessarily have to be 4 hours, but felt way too long and way under 2 hours. So, let me your thoughts, and this is Jerry Saravia at the Movies, signing off.